Hi, hello.
Hi, Edward.
Finally,
How are you?
finally we meet.
Yeah, I'm really happy for having you here. Really, it's a pleasure actually.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
It's a pleasure to meet you.
I'm gonna start first by introducing myself because it is
Mm.
actually interesting to let you know about me and why I'm interested in your book and also your insight in this field of quantitative trading. Um, so my name is Alassane Diallo. I am a quant analyst with several years of experience. I've been involved in several projects from quantitative trading to risk management and also in artificial intelligence, overall. Actually, I created a platform called Quantfin in France here because I live in Paris, where I actually democratize, this field of quantitative finance to my community, and that's the reason why I call you because I actually came across your book and I read it, and it appeared to me to be very interesting. So this is why I call you, and it's really
Okay,
a pleasure actually to have you here.
my pleasure.
Yeah. So Dr. Edward, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself and to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you did and what you're currently doing exactly before we start talking about this book. Thank you.
Well, I started doing artificial intelligence in the early 80s, actually, so it was a long time ago. Um, I did my PhD in um, AI planning, automated planning. So that was in that was in the mid 80s. So I've been in AI for a long time, and my first degree was in finance. So I thought I would combine the two and work on it. And so I've been working on AI in finance for 30
Wow.
30 odd years. So way ahead, way before everyone else did. So
Yeah. Wow. This is a lot of experience.
um, and now I have retired. I have retired for 7 years already. So one of the questions that you asked was um, whether there are further developments. Not anymore from me. My student, my co-author and student, ex-student, is now working in finance. So I most of my students work in finance, in industry. Some of them are actually running their own companies, trading with directional change. They haven't told me what algorithms they use to trade, and it wouldn't be fair for me to ask them anyway because people make their living, or their fortune by trading. So so even if they tell me, some of them did, I'm not supposed to tell other people.
Absolutely.
And in any case, anything that is in the open would become unuseful anyway because when everyone is using the same technique, then you're not going to make money out of it.
That's true. That's true.
So, but most of them are using directional change. The main reason is because, think of it this way: for every million people who works on time series, there's only one person who works in directional change. So you are you're looking at from at the market. Well, both directional change and time series are looking at the same data at the same time. So if a million people is looking at it from one angle and you're looking at it from the other angle, but you don't miss the time series anyway. So you're looking with two eyes when some people are using just one eye to look at it. You have an advantage over the others. And that's the belief. So you have two perspectives of the same data, and you take advantage of it. I've actually made a video on it. I don't know whether you've come across my
Yeah,
videos.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I watched it actually, and I also saw that your co-writer, the co-writer of the book, Dr. Chen, also did some videos talking about the different algorithms that are used actually, to implement the regime change, and
Yes,
they are based on Marco Chen.
yes.
Yeah. Uh, is it possible actually to get to know, a little bit about the insight behind this algorithm?
Yes, it is. It is published in that book, so nothing is hidden in that book. Um, the basic idea is you feed the data, the raw data, basically. I think we fed it with minute by minute data.
Yeah.
You can, if you want, you could feed even better if you feed it in the tick to tick data. So you feed the data into the machine learning algorithm, and you start to ask the algorithm, based on this data, can you classify it into two regimes? Um, the volatile, we call them the volatile regime and the normal trading regime. So it's the data that tells us that, oh yeah, I can separate them with high confidence that this is separated. So you put in the historical data, and the hidden Markov chain machine learning algorithm learns the hidden Markov chain. So it says, oh, this period was in the normal period, this was a high volatile period, and this is back to normal, etc. So you get that. That's nothing. I mean, you can feed any data into any machine learning algorithm and it will find you something which may or may not make sense. It could happen by coincidence, by chance. So that's not a problem. But but what makes it interesting is you feed it with another set of data from another market, let's say, and then another set, and commodities, foreign exchange, stocks, and if you manage to find these hidden Markov chains in different ones, and you're trying to change the threshold in directional change, and you find the same thing, now that starts to become more interesting. So that is where we started. Also, we look at look at these Markov chains from different from hidden Markov chains from different markets, different thresholds. Do they have any common characteristics? So after some research, we realized that yes, there are characteristics which can be captured by the time that it takes for a trend to finish, and also by the total movement, how much it changes before it comes down. So those are two of the indicators that we use to measure the characteristics. We use other things actually, but these two are the most significant. Right. Okay. So now you are in business because you realize that when the Markov chains, hidden Markov chains were found in different markets, different thresholds, they share the same characteristics, which can be characterized by these two indicators in a two-dimensional space. So we plot them, which is easier to visualize. Can we draw a line? Are they linearly separable? Not directly. I mean, they overlap with each other by a small amount. Well, understandable because they came out of a hidden Markov model. So it's not just. Let me just explain. It's not just like that. If you take this amount of time to make this amount of change, then yes, we are entering a volatile period.
Region, yeah.
It's not as simple as that because it is in a hidden Markov chain. That is, what happens now depends on what happened the moment before, the minute before, and the minute before, and the minute before. So this is a moving window. So that's what a Markov model is, isn't it? The current state depends on the previous state, depending on the previous state. So okay, so now we know that they can be classified, but it is not such a direct, straightforward thing. So we try to characterize them, and with some tricks which matters, but it is the details in the book which I wouldn't go into. So now the big picture is, now that we have multiple markets, multiple thresholds, and we get these many regimes, and we manage to classify them, and then we ask the question, can we recognize them? Now, I use the word recognize instead of forecasting, because we're not forecasting. We're just saying, okay, the market has now, and if the market has entered a different regime, can we recognize it as soon as possible? So that's the second part of the research. So you can monitor the time, you can monitor the total movement, and you use those to give you an indicator of how likely are you entering into the new regime. So based on what you observe on the spot, real time on the market, you can actually calculate two probabilities based on what you have learned using machine learning in the Markov models. You can give a probability of you now being in the normal regime or in the volatile regime. So you have two probabilities, and we use a simple Bayesian rule to work out whether it is now in the normal regime or whether it is in the volatile regime. And so to prove the concept being useful, so we assume that we are just using a very simple directional change trend. I think it was a trend following strategy to trade. So if we trade and we monitor the market, if it enters an extreme volatile regime, we just cut the loss, we just close the positions. Okay, so now here's the trading algorithm which just trades as normal without regime change recognition, and the other one is trading with recognition of the regime changes and close the position as soon as you detect a regime change. So the two run and compare each other, and indeed, cutting the position gives you an advantage over not cutting the position. So that's a proof of concept.
Yeah.
So obviously, we know that is not the end of it. There are many ways to improve the monitoring process and also the trading process. And maybe that is what my ex-student is using at the moment in his trading.
Yeah, and it's absolutely interesting, as you mentioned, actually, because you apply, this algorithm in a basic contrarian strategy that you call TC1, and you created also two modified versions of these contrarian algorithms that you call GC1 and GC2. GC1 which incorporate actually this regime change, and we have a look at the result, and we notice that the GC1 and GC2 led to the reductions of the drawdown, of the maximum drawdowns. However, the contrarian, the simple contrarian strategy appeared to lead to more profit, than the other ones. So how can we explain this? Because in the end, what really matters is the combinations of the profits, but also the losses.
Well, as I said, this is just a proof of concept to say that, to show that incorporating regime change detection helps you to achieve your goal of, in this case, of reducing your drawdown. Of course, it can be improved in other ways, but this is just the first very naive step, as you can see. Well, even the trading algorithm is very naive. If we have more time, we probably would develop different strategies for different regimes. So we probably wouldn't have just two regimes. We probably have the normal regime in which you develop a normal trading strategy. And then in different extreme regimes, and even the volatile regimes can be classified as different volatile regimes, and you develop strategies to trade in each of those regimes. That would be what we'll be doing. So, but
Okay.
but what he's done is sufficient for him to get a PhD, which is what he wanted.
Yeah.
And as it is shown by most of my PhD students, they would just quit, and then, or some of them just quit without finishing it.
Yeah. But it's a fascinating, fascinating topics actually. In the end of the book, actually, you mentioned that further researches could be done on improving, the results that we got, because the test has been done in this contrarian strategy, and we could have changed this simple strategy to other sophisticated strategies, to have a look at what results we can get. Um, After this research with Dr. Chen, um, have you continue the project with some other students to improve the final result, or the topic is still
No,
open?
not on the trading. Not on the trading one. We did have another PhD student, another two PhD students looking at monitoring the market. So in a more sophisticated way, not just regime change is one way, but there are other ways to monitor the market. Unfortunately, these students all go into industry, so as soon as they go into industry, they are not willing to
Yeah.
publish what they do. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable. It's understandable.
well,
Okay.
I'm sure you have heard of people who even didn't finish the PhD. Well, one of my students didn't finish. I mean, as soon as they found something useful, just quit.
Yeah, I mean, it's normal. It's normal because it's a lot of dedication, to continue with a PhD, and the ultimate goal of that is to be able actually to apply it in industry related problems, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So Dr. Shen, Dr. Edward, I also saw that you are interested in the role of artificial intelligence in itself,
yeah,
because regime change is something that you've been working on with your PhD student, but also there are this topic of AI that is completely separated, from
yeah.
finance. Um, Even there is a book that you wrote on it called AI in Finance, right? Um, would you mind to tell us a little bit about the overall topics that are
Okay.
yeah.
Well, first of all, you mentioned the book AI for Finance. I teach a module actually in AI in Finance. The book AI for Finance actually gives you a very brief overview, very shallow overview of a lot of things. But people like you who has been in the field, if you pay a bit attention into the book, you realize that I hinted quite a lot of things that would take too long to explain. So I just stay at the shallow level. A lot of the things are actually from industry. People told me about in industry, but I cannot review them. So I give hints, I give pointers to them. So if you ask the right question, I may be able to answer you.
Yeah, yeah,
I may be able to lead
yeah.
you into those things without saying that, oh, that is done by company X and Y. So what I'm saying is that book, although it is very shallow, actually draws from a lot of real applications, very in-depth research. In fact, well, I've been applying AI for finance for maybe 30 years, nearly 1990 something, 90, 93, 94. So I've been in the field for 30 years. So I think I'm proud to say that I think I was the only one who has exposed to so many areas covered in my book. The one more chapter that I would have written would be on natural language processing. I haven't had time or space to cover that because the publisher's brief is that it's got to be 6 chapters. It's got to be, I think, 30,000 words. It's got to be readable by people who reads the newspaper. So it remains at that level. So I didn't have time to cover some of the things that I wanted to cover. But if I would urge you to ask the right questions, and then I'll
Yeah.
I'll go into them.
Yeah, I mean, currently, actually, some of the problems that I'm trying to solve, are risk management problems, and more specifically, market risks. So even recently, I've been working on a Bayesian, model that try, to price a financial instruments, an exotic instruments. And out there are so many papers that uses deep learning techniques, to be able, to capture the dynamics of those exotic instruments. So I would like to know, based on your experiences, if we can apply, natural language processing or other AI techniques in the pricing topics.
Well, let me ask you a question. You said you're interested in risk management. Is the interest based on meeting the regulators' requirements, or is it for really assessing your own portfolio risk?
Yeah, actually, it is. Well, I would say the last one because it is extremely difficult, to be able, to build a sophisticated AI models that kind of verify, the regulatory requirements. It's extremely complex.
Not true. I mean, I've known companies which do that for a living, basically, as one of their main businesses. I think SunGard did that, didn't they? SunGard. Now it's changed its name. I can't remember what it is changed into. SunGard changed to something else.
So
Yeah,
I guess it is a financial institutions in China, I guess.
No. SunGard. I think it was South African.
South African. Okay. Okay. Well,
Well,
actually,
look it up. SunGard. SUNGARD. I think. It's been restructured to become something else. It's based in London, actually. It was originally, I think, South Africa, if I am not mistaken, but the main office is in London.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because based on my experience, I got to know that you have to possess really sophisticated resources to be able actually to build all of your AI, your deep learning models to meet the regulatory requirements. Even in my financial
No,
institution currently, which is not
no, that's not the case. I mean, in the contrary, if you use AI models and fit it into a sophisticated machine learning hidden Markov model, for example, I'm not even sure that would be accepted by the regulators. the regulators want something much simpler
Yeah.
and explainable, easy to explain. I don't know about France, but in the UK, that's the requirement. Is it the same in France?
Well, actually, simple models are always preferable than complex models. Because they are based on less hypotheses, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing. But also, in the UK, the 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 regulator asks the risk managers to explain to them to their satisfactory, which means they must be able to understand what's going on. So they use extremely straightforward, simple models. The one that SunGard developed, if I think I can disclose that because it was in the seminar, was to basically build a data model. A lot of you have data about every instrument, and you have data about every company, every share that that you may hold. So they have a huge model, and they do it on simulation, basically, on simulation. So they used simulation. They probably used machine learning for their own for their own development, to develop their own strategy. That's not for satisfying the regulators. To set it, so they have a model which serves two purposes. One is to satisfy the regulators, and one is to satisfy themselves in how to allocate the market, the capitals. The internal one, you can use machine learning, no problem. The external one, you use simulation, and you also put in stress tests. What if the interest rate goes up by 1%, and then the model would basically handle it and say, then you don't have enough reserve. You've got to keep a bigger reserve for it. So they have a stress test capability. So that is the side that meets the regulators. So to summarize, internally they use the modeling, simulation, and machine learning cycle, which I mentioned in my book, which is extremely powerful, which they don't have to tell other people because that's not part of the regulation. Externally, they use simulation, modeling, and simulation to show that, hey, we passed all these stress tests that we have passed. So this actually sold the service to other companies to meet the regulators' requirements. And I think it's not a secret that the model that they meet the regulators' requirement is completely different from the internal model, which they want to use it to assess their real risk and make money. So I'm sure that you are doing the same.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. That's a good insight. Okay. So, Professor, to wrap up actually this session, I would like to ask you a last questions. We are currently living in this new area of generative AI, and we don't even know what's gonna happen in the fields of finance because AI models are being developed so quickly. So, what is your perspective, on the upcoming years to come in the application of AI in finance?
Well, I think human trading is going to be a rare. You will still find human traders in some markets, in the in some exotic markets, like where the volatility is very very low. Not volatility, sorry. The activities, the volume is very low, and you still use human trading. But apart from that, most of the trading, 99.99% of the trades, has to be done by algorithms. You've got to use algorithms mainly because you can't monitor all these markets on your own, no matter how smart you are. So you are better off putting your algorithm, it is your algorithm, put it in the algorithm and let it trade on your behalf. One of the major difference between you trading and the computer trading is the computer can get information much faster than you get, especially in news, which is what I said. I if I had more time, I would have written a chapter on that one. So the news keep coming out as nowadays, and then news keep coming out. You have this sentiment analysis, which will say, this piece of news is actually good news or bad news or no, it's neutral. So a lot of companies are actually feeding with this news and then feeding into the computer. So they get more variables than other companies that do not use sentiment analysis. So data is everything. I mean, if you ignore the news, which is input to your program as a data, you're missing a lot of things. So that is one thing. And then that comes to the credibility of the news, because if I'm a company and I'm in trouble, do you know what I would do? I would go out, tell many people, we are in really good health. I mean, this is no problem. We are telling them exactly the opposite. So if you're a naive algorithm and you just count how many good newses there are, and you're probably misled, because I have many good friends who would write me good reports, right? So I'll make sure that my price goes up before I sell all my shares, and then it will collapse. So you can't be naive about that, about the news. And there's actually one area which is in AI, which has been completely ignored. Now you hear it from me first time. I think you won't hear it from many other people. There's an area which is called truth maintenance systems. You better record that word.
Maintenance system. Okay.
Are you familiar with that?
Actually, I think I saw this in a web page.
Okay.
This particular word.
Truth. I don't know whether I wrote it in my book. I suspect I didn't, because it would need some time to explain. So a truth maintenance system basically remembers why you believe in something. So you believe in something because Reuters told you about it, or who and who told you about it. But when some new information comes along and say, that is not true, then you revise your belief. So it's basically a housekeeping system which remembers what is true and what is true based on what sources. So there are two useful aspects of it. One is you can maintain a more consistent belief than others. The second one is more important, and you can trace all these sources. You remembered all these sources, and if all the sources come from one single source, that's probably unlikely to be true. That's very dubious. So you will suspect that. So I'm really surprised if I were in industry, I would actually build a truth maintenance system. The reason why it was abandoned, I think I have written about it in the past, but long time ago. The reason why truth maintenance systems were abandoned was because of combinatorial explosion, which I mentioned in my book. It's just too much to handle. But now, given the explosion of news nowadays, and there are so many fake newses, you've got to use truth maintenance system to win them out. So that was that is actually part of my new book, which I'm writing. But would I finish this book? I don't know, because AI goes so fast. So so in a way, I really hope that someone actually implements truth maintenance system before I write this book, before I finish this book. But I think that this is extremely useful, that I would urge you to go into.
Thank you for this insight, Dr. Edward. I'm gonna do some research, on this truth maintenance system, to get to know more about it.